6:30. I move that we open the meeting of the Marshfield Conservation Commission on September 7th, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
As always, this is a hybrid meeting. In the event of technological failure, we will continue in this room. You can watch it on television or watch the tape afterwards. Our protocol is in order. Everyone be respectful, courteous, and concise. I'm going to read off the continuations for tonight, just in case anyone is here for any of these. These will not be heard tonight. 274 Foster Avenue, 17 Oregon Road, 0 Edmond Road, 16 Wilson Road, 1203 Ferry Street, 1184 Ferry Street, and 76 Carolyn Circle. So if anybody is here with an interest in any of these, that will not be addressed tonight. Also being tabled is business item B7, dock performance standards. That will be heard at another date. So with that, we will move to the minutes. Has everyone been able to look at the 8:3 and the 8:17 minutes?
I didn't circulate the 8:17, so it's just the 8:3.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's just the 8:3. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 8:3.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And does anyone have any additional comments or corrections to anything there that you have not already given to Bill?
So I have Susan's comments and I have Craig's comments. Any other commissioners? Okay. It's edited then.
So I move that we vote to approve the August 3rd, 2022 minutes as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
Joe.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
All right, on to the business session. The de minimis activity roll, starting with 95 Monitor Road for tree cutting and vegetative management. Yep. Do you want to say anything, Mike?
Yeah, I did the site visit for that one. There were a few branches overhanging the rear of the property, stemming from the ditch behind the homeowner's house. These are to be pruned. And also, there are two larger trees. There's a larger red maple near the driveway, and also a cluster of willow trees. The willow trees are almost touching the home, and so are the branches from the other larger maple tree. And there's also a line of sight issue at this property leaving the driveway. They'd like to do some cutting to improve the line of sight. Yeah, okay, perfect. And then I'm just pulling up pictures of this now. Would you like me to read the suggested special conditions?
I'm going to ask for any commissioner comments. Okay, in that case, I move that we vote to approve the vegetative management as a de minimis activity with special conditions. If you would read those in.
Yep. Before commencing the work, see Conservation Administrator Agent to mark the trees to be cut on town-owned land under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. Leave roots in ground and stump trees at 4 feet to allow for rejuvenation. Coordinate separately with DPW for tree removal on the conservation land. Ensure best management practices and building codes are followed. Obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits. See Conservation Administrator or Agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And then we need a separate vote on the town-owned land. Okay, so I move that we also vote to approve the hazard tree cutting on town-owned land under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission, parcel ID number K101424. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, that's an important two-stepper, and then the individual will have to work with the DPW to get the
DPW.
trees cut on the town-owned land, but it's free to go on their own land.
Okay, next up is Bartlett's Island Way, 56. This is a shed replacement. And Mike?
Yep. So yes, the shed is within land subject coast storm flowage, AE 15, and buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. It's proposed 1-to-1 size shed replacement, so of the same size. As an improvement, it is going up on diamond piers. So essentially the same shed, but with the improved diamond pier foundation.
Okay, and this, the applicant has filed a floodplain permit, and the proposed shed meets all FEMA zoning and building code requirements. It will require a building permit. I move that we vote to approve the shed replacement on diamond pier footings as a de minimis activity with special conditions.
Yep. The special conditions are as follows. Ensure best management practices and building codes are followed. Obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits, and see the Conservation Administrator or Agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. 24 Oregon Road, a generator stand.
Good evening.
Just contact us and we'll help you out.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Right here.
Perfect. Yes, 24 Oregon Road. This is for a generator stand consisting of aluminum on a slab on grade. As you can see from our visit the other day, the slab has already been delivered. That's the proposed stand design above that picture there. It consists of aluminum. It's not the approved generator, the pre-approved generator stand. But yes, it's made of aluminum and on slab on grade.
We have comments from the building commissioner stating that this generator is required to be elevated at least 4 feet above grade and will require footings or diamond piers. Slabs are not appropriate in an AO zone and will erode and scour during flood conditions, causing structural failure. This structure still needs a certificate of occupancy, and the building department cannot do that, cannot deal with a generator until there is a certificate of occupancy. So this,
That would come under the obtain all subsequent permits, so that leaves Andrew and the other departments in a position to condition the approval here.
okay.
So that leaves.
So we can go ahead
Yeah.
and do this as de minimis and
And
then,
you stated out in the open that this additional requirement is out there.
Okay.
And it's a natural concurrent moving permit
okay.
of sorts.
So we'll be approving the location, but not the design.
I would say you're
With the
approving what's
footings.
there, but what'll come back now is, when Andrew gets it, he has his own comments here, and he'll have to adjust it. We're approving it, and if it gets better than this and it's on diamond piers, I think you'd approve it immediately if you'd approve this. We have had other slabs that we've approved, or the commission has approved. Commission's also approved railroad ties filled with gravel, et cetera, those kind of things. We've had another slab, I can't remember exactly where it was. If he improves this, it's equal, equivalent, or better, so that would be an option. Or you could just tell him right here and now that the slab's not approved and deny it. But I think we already had some approvals when we sent out the email.
It's the elevation that we're concerned about.
Two things, yeah, the elevation has to be adequate to keep it out above the water. And then he's also saying that the AO flood zone creates a scour environment, and that's what he's detailing in here. So it's like those two things are going on at once. That's fresh news we got today. To his, defense, it didn't go out till the 6th to get him the comments. They weren't ready till Friday, the, whatever it was, 4th, 3rd, or whatever the day was, the 2nd. We had a holiday in there too. So it's up to you. If the commission doesn't want to approve the slab and follow the building, building department, that's fine. If you want to approve it and let the building department work with it, that seems to be a pathway. Maybe slabs are not going to be good any longer going forward.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to vote to approve a generator stand on a
Yeah,
concrete
you
slab. That is not.
There's pre-approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
I would agree.
We have a procedural pre-approval, so you would want to, we have to figure out how to deal with that, because this is news to us, because obviously the pathway, due to the holiday, due to the timing of the release of the agenda, and then the fresh news that you've got today, that means that you having a fresh look at it. So you might want to think about how we're going to manage that, so.
I would say that since commissioners approved this as de minimis, we have received additional information that changes the scenario.
Okay, so I would say,
And then I would say we vote, I move that we vote to rescind the prior approval
yeah, deny it, I would say, or revoke it, yeah.
and revoke.
Yeah.
Or
I would,
whether-
yeah, no, I think I would say vote to revoke. Read this here.
We approved the location of the generator, but it's subject to,
Everything is approved, everything, the location, the construction of it, all of it is approved by this. So if you would want to probably go back, the policy works like this. You reach out to the commissioners get back, and then we bring it, for this kind of situation, bring it forward in front of the public. In this case, you don't have a vote yet, you're about to approve it. I would say vote to revoke the prior approval for the construction of aluminum generator stand on a concrete slab right there. And then say vote to approve, this is what I would do, a generator stand as per the building commissioner's requirements, and it right there.
yeah, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun.
No, that's
Does
okay.
that, does that work? I mean, does that
I
seem?
mean, that works for me.
Yeah,
Is
that gets.
is that
out of here.
acceptable?
Because then it's coming back, and you're going to approve this one way or another.
Right.
And really, I'll be frank with you, they're closing out a COC tonight. They could have come back and said, can we close this out? And you could have put it in that way too, but, so there's two ways of dealing with this one.
Okay, so we're
Vote to
going-
revoke this first one here.
I move that we vote to revoke
Yeah.
the prior approvals of this generator stand. May I have a second?
Second.
Susan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then you vote to approve the construction of generator stand as per the comments from the building commissioner.
Okay.
Yes.
I move that we vote to approve the construction of a generator stand here pursuant to the requirements of the building commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the 200 Joseph Drybeck Way, the Harbor Master Vegetative Management. Do one of you want to speak to this, or?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. This is in regards to the upcoming event. I believe it's Lobster Fest at Harbor Park. There has to be a amount of vegetation management for sightliness and also for the long-term structural integrity of the revetment wall there along Joseph Drybeck Way. There's a significant amount of invasive and opportunistic plants growing in that area, including Phragmites, staghorn sumac, and thistle. Yeah, you can see there that area along Joseph Drybeck Way in the revetment, the trap rock there. And then also across the street, there is a cluster of large sumac trees blocking the surveillance camera for that parking lot. And that should also be taken care of before this event. Harbor Master DeMayo brought this to my attention last week.
Okay. Anyone have a comment? Hearing none, I move that we vote to approve the vegetative management as a de minimis activity with special conditions.
Yes. Ensure best management practices and building codes are followed. Obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits, and see Conservation Administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
I'd like to note he's coming back for an RDA also. to do a more extensive cutting, but this is needed.
Yes.
To give a avenue for permitting in the absence of a prior RDA. He's been always very well permitted. He got caught in a trap and, you know, he just missed the window. So this DMA gives the possibility for him to have a presentable site for the Lobster Fest.
For the Lobster Fest. Okay, did I make the motion?
Yes.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
That's Danny good.
All in favor? Aye.
Second,
All right.
Second vote here on the vote.
I had
4
Susan
Hunter
Karen for the
Drive,
vote to approve generator stand approval.
Another tree from town-owned
Had Bert approve.
land that has fallen on a homeowner's property. Do you want to comment?
Yes, I'll comment on that one, Craig.
Here we go.
So this tree fell from parcel number B180309, aka Union Street Woodland. This large tree fell from the town-owned parcel onto the property there at 400 Drive. The root ball, which is not in this picture, is sticking out of the ground over there, and this would be also notable is that this tree fell and impacted a few other trees, so likely when they go to cut and remove this tree from 4 Hunter Drive, they may run into a couple other trees which are no longer healthy.
But all on part of the woodland,
Yeah.
Yes.
not the homeowner's property.
Yes.
48-acre property.
Yeah. Okay. I move that we vote to approve the cutting and removal of a fallen tree from town-owned land under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. Parcel ID number B180309. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And secondly, I move that we vote to approve the cutting and removal as a de minimis activity with special conditions.
Yes, the special conditions are as follows. Ensure best management practices are followed. Obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits. See Conservation Administrator or Agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities. Leave roots in the ground and stump trees at 4 feet to allow for rejuvenation where applicable. Cut or limb any tree in the immediate area that has been impacted by the fallen tree per tree warden's discretion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Item B2, 205 Bay Avenue. Commissioner Good is recusing on this. This is a revision of a site plan showing a decrease to the size of the structure, and I believe we have a presenter here.
Yes,
Bear with us. We got it. Here you go. It's pretty good shape, so you can have it too if you like.
We just got it.
That working for you?
yeah, sure, so that's the
Which is thing?
existing home. Yeah, this is the previous approval. That's the existing home, and that's a
Sort of.
different site. That's the one. Yeah. So that's the original approval for this property that was the existing home, and was proposing a new home on the lot. There was a new owner of the property, Meg Good, who is proposing a different house on the lot, which is why we're here tonight. The house is 6 feet narrower than the house that was originally approved. It is the same depth, front to back, but it is narrow by 6 feet. It's also going to be on trimmed wood piles. The finished floor of the structure was required to be at 12 minimum. It's in an AE 11, so it needs to be a foot above the base flood elevation of the finished floor of 12. I suspect it's going to be higher than that, but the minimum requirement is 12, and the reason I say it might be a little higher is because the ground there is 11. So finished floor at 12, you usually have 2 feet between the finished floor and the top of piles, so just for access into the building for utilities and so forth. I suspect it's gonna be, you know, maybe 3 feet higher or something than the 12, but minimum requirement is 12 for that, and that's essentially why we're here. It's a similar house, just a little bit smaller by 274 square feet in the footprint.
Okay. Do you have any comments on that, Bill, or Mike, or?
Well, I've got more history on it. So I would say this, long story short, this particular project is a reduction. Sorry, I didn't have the plan up there, my bad. It is particularly, I think this is worth pointing out, and I'll use the existing plan right this second here. So let me get this back up here. What's happening is it's going back about 10 feet right here, and they're also not going to be in this area here. So in other words, they're bringing it back and truing it on the road, and they're putting porches in here with decks above. They're reducing it on the order of what, Rick, 234 square feet or something like that?
274.
How about that for being 40 square feet off, not having the plan in front of you? Good memory. Sorry I couldn't launch it. Rick did a nice job on this. He took over for Terry, and you know, that's what we need. We need reductions where possible. Ferry Beach, Coastal Dune.
Agreed.
And a floodplain, and he's in riverfront.
Okay, any commissioner comments? In that case, I move that we vote to approve the reduction of the building footprint square footage as a de minimis activity with special conditions to be captured under the SE 42-2803 as-built submittal for the request for certificate of compliance. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think the key thing there, Rick, is they should follow the special conditions at SE 42-2803.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Okay.
Thank you. All right, good night.
Thank you.
This one looks familiar, right, Rick?
Okay.
Yes.
Item B3, 125 Surf Avenue. We have some deviations with decks and landings, and
Yeah.
you're going to take this one also, Rick?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We got both here, Rick, just so you know. You got
Okay.
that.
So, this is 205 Bay Ave. The existing approval, as the one on the top there shown, is what was approved here by the commission. It was, the house is going to be elevated on a new foundation with those proposed 2 landings to get it down to the ground. The house is quite a bit off the ground. What's happened prior, or since then, is the homeowner changed the decks on the house, essentially. We went through zoning, got approved, we worked closely with the building department to get a deck that wraps around 2 sides of the house to connect the driveway with the back of the house. A lot of that was geared towards the elderly mother in the house. But at any rate, it was approved by the zoning board for this wraparound deck, and it never came back before the commission to show the revisions of what was approved. So that's why we're here tonight. Kind of got missed. The deck was, they went forward with the building permit, but the plan never came back to the commission to show the changes. So essentially, what you have, we changed from landing in a long set of stairs that were to service the building to that 6-foot wraparound deck that wraps around the front of the house and then around the easterly side of the house and connects to that rear porch that's out in the back, just like where it's highlighted there. So we have an increase in square footage, of course, with that deck area. My calculations based on between the existing and the proposed, we now have an increase of 386 square feet over what was existing and what was previously approved. So when you take out the areas of those landings, which were large landings, but certainly not as big as a 6-foot deck that wraps all the way around. So in the end, we have a 386 square foot increase. It isn't an AE9, I count 11 concrete piers that are out there to support this deck. House is obviously not, the deck isn't completed, but it doesn't look to me, just from looking at it, that there's gonna be any more, but right now there's 11 concrete piers in the ground and 1 wooden post that's connected to the foundation, so 12 supports in total. And that's essentially what happened with this.
How does that impact, how do the piles impact the impervious?
I calculated the whole deck surface
Okay.
in this table, so it's under
So it's
what
in
is
there.
shown. Yeah,
Okay.
it's underneath the deck. I did the whole deck surface in the 386 square feet.
Okay,
So it would be considerably less, obviously, but I went with the entire surface of the deck.
It's just the footings down at the bottom, so it's got coverage. If you look here, it's a net decrease here of 75, and this 385, so it's really in the 400s. But he's using coverage, okay, which is elevated up and not the post. If we just did the post, he'd only be adding, I don't know, Rick, maybe 11 square feet or 12, yeah.
Yeah,
So he-
about a foot square.
I think the key is, this project's been the runaway project, and we got to stop that. Rick's here to help do that. I talked to Paul Young in the field. He understands we let him continue with our cease and desist, but if they start putting up hardscape on this, that's a problem.
well, they have a patio already on the plan.
Saying there's been a long little history here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a choice between a de minimis or submittal of a request for amended orders of conditions.
I think de minimis would send a message that they can't go and do any regular hardscape because it's a runaway project.
Does anybody have any strong feelings as to de minimis versus amended? Okay.
How about a de minimis with the updated plan showing, like, I think it has an AC unit, which I didn't see on this, and have those things thrown on the plan.
That's on there. Unless there's something new, Joe. But
I thought I saw it in the one I had, but I didn't see it on this one.
yeah, it is there in
It's
the back.
behind the, yeah,
Okay.
the end of the green there.
Oh, I see it now. Yeah.
So this is an accurate updated
Yes,
plan as of now?
yes.
I
Okay,
was gonna say, we're here when Rick engages, we got what we need, so.
okay. In that case, I move that we vote to approve the reduction of the, I move that we vote to approve the addition of the elevated deck on concrete footings and new locations of the landings as a de minimis activity with special conditions to be captured under the as-built for the request of certificate of compliance. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Now tell them to behave, because next time we might make them
Yeah,
amend
we'll
it.
put a note in the building permit next time, because this
Yeah.
is like 3 strikes you're out,
Yeah, it's gonna happen for sure.
Thank you for understanding
very
that.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
for-
Rick.
Rick. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, item B4, 74 Blue Heron Way. This is a DMA versus a request for amended order of conditions.
Yeah, I'll speak to that one. Mr. Brett Corchin was here last week for the addition of the pool house on his property right there with the associated trenching. He called back after that meeting about this removal of a portion of the existing driveway and also the proposed paver patio. He's removing 400 square feet of the driveway to install a 600 square foot patio, net increase of impervious of 200 square feet. And also doing some work on his egress stair on his porch there, that's also highlighted.
It's got a little cross section here, so you can see it's pervious. He understands.
That was pervious.
Okay. We have comments from the building commissioner on this. The project has not received any final gas, electrical, or building permit inspections and has not had any inspections with the building department since August 6, 2020. No final or life safety inspections have been conducted on this residential swimming pool. So the applicant does need to contact the building department.
Madam Chair, if I remember right, when this came to us earlier, we did ask whether or not there was the possibility of this patio, and we were told no. And we reminded that it needed permitting.
Okay, good,
He said three strikes out too. Okay.
yeah.
Bad day for this all. You know,
Good
I
memory.
spoke to him and so did Mike, and if it goes on again, he's definitely a request for minute order conditions or a new NOI, because you can't keep doing that. But this is proposed, and he may never do it. He just wanted to get it out there as an option. That's why we called it out, or the guy did. Do you have any more you want to do? Now's the time. And he came back later, and he's got a growing family, so
Yeah.
yeah. I think he's at three strikes you're out after this.
So, de minimis or amended. Anyone have a strong opinion here?
For the new commissioners, all three of you, if they go request for minute order conditions, it's a new filing for the minimum activity only. They need to re-notify the neighbors within 100 feet of butters. They need to give a legal ad, and they need to go through the plan, the full plan, not this, and the whole equivalent of NOI process. So, yeah, it's the second motion, but, he went home and thought about it, and this is a proposed, and he may not actually do it. We'd like him to do it. He's gonna remove some driveway.
Is comfortable with de minimis? Okay. I move that we vote to approve the pervious patio construction, stair repair, and partial driveway removal as a de minimis activity with special conditions to be captured under the as-built submittal for the request for certificate of compliance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 10 South Street. Again, de minimis versus request for amended orders. I think I saw Mr. Cutter on the screen there.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay, so would you like to explain the situation here?
Yeah, sure. So, going back a little bit here, I've been working with the building commission to kind of rectify a few of the things after the house was elevated onto the concrete piers. The main thing being we had an enclosure around our utility pipes, our water pipes that was put up. So the building commissioner recommended that we reach out to a structural engineer to make an assessment of the property. We had that done by EPOP, and since then he had us add in 2 smart vents to the enclosure to be in compliance there. And then I think it was Bill and I forget your colleague's name.
Mike.
Mike.
Stopped by and we just talked over some other things.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
So, we're Bear Beach Coastal Dune in a floodplain. This is the original conditions right here. They got approved back in, say, May of 2021, just to be clear. And these were the proposed conditions. And so what I'll do is just, I think photos usually help a lot. This was the site visit for let's see, one more, yeah, thank you, Mike. This were the site conditions down by the World War II tower, everybody knows it, and this is what it looked like at the time. You got a paved patio here, or a paver patio, and these are the conditions from this side of the house, okay? So then they elevated up. There was a lot of discussion about open piles versus these concrete found these piles, and the concept was for an open environment underneath. This was February 23, 2022. You can't see it, but there's a post right here, and there's a deck coming over. You'll see that momentarily. And there it is. So this was all, it was pretty consistent with what was on the plan. There was a deck to be up here. There was, I think, a porch and so on, and then this raised area right up here. So it's pretty hard pan in here. And then we got called in, I think it was the 28th of July, I got an email from Andrew Stewart saying that they had put in an enclosure, so we went down to pay him a visit, and you could see within 5-7 months or whatever it was, he got this deck here, which can be removed. He's got shelves in here. It's a mixed bag of things. You got couches, things that can be moved. We have a shower with, it's pervious here. You got some walls. It's pretty much open slits right here, which is, allows some water to pass through. And then the enclosure, these are the vents that the engineer had recommended. And it looks like this from the side. So, and it's open like this. They tried to have a privacy screening and so on. And he's used shells underneath. He basically showed Mike and I underneath all this, kicked it back about 2 or 3 inches, and it was shells, but it's got a carpet on, etc. So there's a lot going on. This enclosure is probably the number one. The commission doesn't typically say what's going to happen with siding, but you'd prefer this every day of the week. You can't really do that in this environment. The concept was for it to be a functioning enclosure, and the flood vents were required. I don't know where Andrew is on this one. Let's see.
Well, he says, as this location has been delineated as a coastal dune in the order of conditions, building code requires that the area below the structure remain open and free from obstructions. No horizontal slats or enclosures of any kind are permitted below any structures in a delineated coastal dune.
Right, and you did find it to be a dune because it's Berry Beach coastal dune, and then Rebecca Haney came with Andrew Point and the adjacent partner to kind of go over that more in September of that 2021. Okay, so basically what he's saying is you can't have that as per 780 CMR. That's where it comes in with the siding, and I can't argue with that. We don't actually have siding. I haven't had anybody, Andrew Point is not able to provide me with anything where conservation gets involved with the siding, but it's a dune. Andrew is saying that 780 CMR calls it out. You can't have the siding, so I guess that's where you are. He does have the vents now, so I don't know. I don't know if this is enough to trigger a request for minute order conditions or not, but it's in the 3 strikes you're out. There's a lot going on underneath. Again, it is pervious. It's covered by carpeting. What I don't want to see is it get done, and I think Mr. Cutter is being forthright. You can't have any more hardscape underneath there because that was the intention of the original order conditions, to elevate it up and keep it open on the subsurface. That's primarily what the commission focuses on, the subsurface, and it's the movement of the sand and the water in this environment. Other than maybe the enclosure, you're sort of okay on that. Some would argue that this situation here, it's covered with a deck. Well, it could get lifted and moved. That's a problem, a different type of problem, but water could percolate through. Material could move as well. So that one is a toughie right there. So these are the things you're facing. I don't know if it's a request for a minute order condition to write that, or if this can also be treated as de minimis, but you can't argue that the building commissioner does have, jurisdiction appears on the siding there.
Any thoughts?
I guess I'm not seeing this as de minimis.
Yeah, so my conversations with the building commissioner and the inspector about the enclosure was, kind of when they first went there, was to address it so it could remain, to insulate my pipes, which is why we went through the structural engineer on that piece for the flood vent. So that was upon his recommendation to do that piece.
So the building commissioner here is saying that you cannot have any enclosures below the structures, but you put in a flood vent. Did the building commissioner, was he in on that?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. He's the one that
That suggested
brought it
the
up,
flood
and then I just needed to get it validated by a structural engineer, so VPOP provided a report for that.
Is that
Saying
the,
how many we had, how many inches they needed to be above grade, correct?
Okay.
Mr. Carter, was that the April 2022 letter? Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so, all right.
Yeah, I can pull it up if need be.
Yeah, we have it. I just don't have it. I don't have it readily available for the commission. So it's the
Yeah,
commission's had
April
it.
7th, 2022.
Okay, so they address a variety of things like hinges and events and how much square footage, how many there should be, et cetera. So I'm a little confused on whether or not they could stay or not. It seems like it could with events. And, you know, the commission thinks that what's going on underneath needs to come back and be a request for minute order conditions. Now is the time to do that. It's different, but if you walk over there, it's like, it's right in the fringe of whether or not you want to go to that level and get that documentation. This is Berry Beach Coastal Dune, so maybe that is something that needs to be revisited.
I'm kind of inclined in the direction of coastal dune conservative and going for the amended order.
Order.
I agree.
Yeah, there seems to be so much going on here in terms of, you know, the building inspector said you can't do this, and then things were done that he said you couldn't do, and then there was the vent that was
vent
put
in.
in, you know, but that's nowhere in the comments of the building inspector, so I think there just needs,
Sorry, John.
oh, no.
Finish up.
No, I think that all, needs to be some facts here that need to be clarified of what is allowed and what's not allowed.
Right. I almost suggest we table this for now and let him go back to the building commissioner and get something that meets his requirements, and then understanding what's gonna be done, then we can decide once again whether or not we want amended or
Yeah.
de minimis.
I think that's a good happy medium. Just cut to what they're saying is this, is, as I talked to you about with Mike on the 4th of August, is there's two pathways. Either this goes de minimis, I did tell you there's a lot going on, and up to the commission, versus a request for minute order conditions, which means there's minor activities that are happening, and they need refile. So I explained on another permit that was in front of the commission. However, what they're saying is they're a little stuck because they don't have all the facts. They don't have what's called clear and convincing information right this moment. And they're willing to table this to the next meeting for you to pull it all together with, hit something in writing from the building commissioner, because the POP letter and what he's saying here seem to be, we need clarity. The commission needs clarity. And if you could do that and help get that done, then maybe you stay de minimis, otherwise you're filing a request for minute order conditions, and you might be following a different pathway with the building commissioner. We don't know.
Sure. Yeah, just for my clarity, what would you, ladies and gentlemen, like to see in the letter from the building commission? Just so I know the right questions to be asking him.
I would like him to reconcile his comments to us that say the structure must remain open and free from obstructions. No horizontal slats or enclosures of any kind are permitted below any structure. And his allowing you to put the walls there with a flood vent. That seems to be, that's confusing me. And I think it's confusing. I don't want to speak for other people, but
I agree, and there's many houses on piles in that area, and they don't seem to have the necessity to do anything like this.
And we don't allow it.
Sorry, the necessity like what?
Like the enclosure. I think the enclosure is a key thing. As I told you, you've got pervious underneath. It's pushing the limits, but it's the enclosure that seems to be the sticking point. This thing right here, you know?
if,
Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can work with the building commissioner on that.
Yes, speak to
He's the one
Mr.
that recommended the vents to me, so.
Yeah, I think the commission wants a letter, you know what I mean? Something that addresses what you've achieved, what was talked about in April, whatever, and then where you stand right now, so the commission can resolve it, because they have two pathways right now.
Yeah, so if you can communicate with Andrew and just bring us some more clarity on this flood vent and, the enclosure.
Have you been in touch with them recently, Mr. Carter?
I have, yeah.
Oh, good,
A few
okay.
times.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. So I move that we vote to table this until we have clarification from the building commissioner?
Yeah, I would just say the 21st.
Or from the,
I'd say table to the 21st, so you have
Okay.
date certain, okay?
table this to September 21st.
Correct.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, that was gonna go to Joe, sorry, he was really.
That's all right.
All in favor? Aye.
And to allow you time, Mr. Clutter, that's the motion, to provide clear and convincing evidence that either you're allowed to do this or not. Done.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I am recusing on the next item.
This one have to have a restroom, okay?
Okay.
So here's the mouse. For your chair now?
Apparently.
Yes.
So, this is item B6, 1299 Union Street, repairs to a existing pier.
Yep.
You want to describe it, Mike?
Yeah, I'll speak on this one. So, this pier here is a little bit warped. They are proposing to put two new piles here to straighten out the pier. These piles will be approximately 10 feet long and 4x4 posts. Some background. DP permit SE 42196 was closed out with the COC. North River Commission permit provided the option to maintain in good order. EPA is acting as a commenting agency as there's no dredging. And the USACE provided a permit, and the Chapter 91 license includes maintenance. The dock regulations currently are a lot different from what they were back when this dock was built. So I would suggest issuing a de minimis activity with special conditions for the
So
dock.
this dock is fully permitted and certified now.
Yes.
And this is just a repair to two piles.
Yes.
I would consider it de minimis.
Agreed.
I make a motion to consider the repairs to 1299 Union as a de minimis activity. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second is Susan. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Perfect.
Craig can come back.
Sorry, what was that?
Craig can come back.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'll get Craig.
You ready, Mr. Bird?
Yes.
Give me a second.
Yes.
Okay.
See these pictures. Is this photographs?
So, we are on the Couch Beach conservation language.
Stuff got tabled, right, Craig, so we just take that.
I'm sorry,
The
Bill?
D7 got tabled.
B7 got, oh, I'm sorry, yes. Dock performance standard is tabled.
Are you handing this to me?
I'm,
Oh,
those are photographs
Oh.
of Couch Beach, so that everybody is
Just the river.
the riverbank, so that you can appreciate the degradation there and the need for some attention. So,
I just want to make a comment on the dock standards. Like, moving forward on that one, can we, there was a number of residents in Green Harbor that were looking to come here to speak to that, and it wasn't updated that was tabled until this morning or yesterday late afternoon. So just moving forward, can we just make sure that we're keeping everyone informed on that, so that there was a number of residents that were making time to come here to speak to that. So just a
so
comment.
noted. Okay. So, Couch Beach, we have, this is our, we've had multiple meetings on this. Tonight, what we are focusing on is the language specifically for the camping area. We are really attempting to get this approved by us tonight. This is not an approval of the conservation restriction. We are just dealing with the 3.45 acres where the camping takes place, and we have language that we believe, that I'm speaking for myself and Susan, and will cover everyone's concerns. The important thing here is to keep this moving forward. This is not the last word on any of this, but if we can approve these changes tonight, this can go back to Wildlands Trust. They will continue to work on this. And before any final decision is made, it will come back before the commission to see the final product. This is just a draft. This is a work in progress. So I would really like to, I know you all have the, two of the changes are minor. The item I about the existing camping area is really the nut of what we're working on here. So I know everybody has had a chance to look at this. We have had a lot of meetings. We have public comment. We have taken all that into account. And if anyone has anything they want to discuss right now,
Kind of couch it, pun intended, on the
Jeez.
three things for now, but if you want to know more, could get concise.
nope, they don't, nobody needs to know anything more. Everybody has everything they need to know. It's all here in front of us. Do any commissioners have any constructive comments?
Related specifically to these proposed changes.
Related specifically to these proposed changes. Good?
What we're just voting on, what are we voting on?
We are voting on, do you have this?
I didn't know, I have that, yep.
Yeah, okay. We are voting on this language being
Okay.
put into the conservation restriction, which is designed to make sure that the historical uses of the camping area and that chunk that is actually a little carve-out, that will be memorialized in this conservation restriction, so that going forward, there will be no question. The Boy Scouts can camp there, the Girl Scouts can camp there. That all stays the same.
Okay.
Can I just do a big picture? It'll take 2 minutes, and I promise. Okay.
Yes, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I just want everybody to understand, this is just a piece of the conservation restriction, the whole thing on the whole land. And the main area of concern for everybody was Couch Beach. None of this language was in it just said very general terms in the original document that camping would be allowed. But people felt like there were a lot of things, there were a lot of improvements that need to be done. There's the riverbank issue, there's specificity with regards to fire safety, there's how do we allow for the mitigation for tent platforms? Should we have tent plants? Should we not have tent platforms? Which has actually been taken out because we don't have to specify that. There was enough negative feedback on that we're just saying tents. There's a user guideline, basically a manual of rules and specificity that will be, Bill is going to come up with that with his task force that will be activities that will, the broad language will support those activities that are needed to continue the activities, and actually to continue the camping and associated things. And also make improvements that typically would not be, some of the activities wouldn't be allowed in a typical CR, but this is different. So that's the most important thing in the whole discussions and feedback that we've gotten over the past year. 5 public meetings has been the camping area. And so this language has been a group of, some of us worked together to come up with this language, and it's been also done in conjunction with Wildlands Trust, so that we are submitting to them a clean copy that hopefully can get to the state for their review as well. This is not the state still has to review this, town council will review it, and it will come back. This is a process that's going to take time, but if we don't get it going, we'll never know if this language is going to work or not. So we have to begin this process. So I hope that makes it clear. And the pictures were just to show you this paragraph on page 8, that was added completely, dealing with the riverbank, because that's never been done before. So this is something that we hope will be I think the pictures will tell a story, and we'll submit those to the state as well, that this is necessary, that will improve the environment over there. So,
How familiar are you with the property? Because this is pretty much it right here.
so.
I'm familiar with it, but my concern was if this is standard, if this is how we normally, because we're kind of putting language in just for them to get started, but it's not the final revised, decision, and it just seems kind of, I'm not
Absolutely.
opposed to anything. I think it could be great. I don't want to put any hardship on the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or anyone. I just trying to figure out, what the standard is.
We've
That's all.
actually never discussed a CR to this extent.
Okay,
For-
and that's fine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Things,
don't have to
sometimes
worry-
that happens.
Right, and just to be clear, the Boy Scouts, that's been taken into account. This is very general, broad language. And the amount of people that can be there for those events, Wildlands Trust cannot tell you how many people. They don't own the land. What they're going to be looking for is, once a year, they're going to be monitoring this. They're going to be looking for impacts. How is it doing? And so they're not going to say you can only have so many people. We have to have guidelines that fulfill the goal of the conservation restriction, which is to keep the topography, the environmental situation over the environmental protection issues safe
Right.
and mitigated for this activity. So that will be Bill's job and the task force to come up with monitoring the activities, making all the decisions so that we live up to the goals of the conservation restriction, which is environmental protection.
Just trying to
and
have
preservation.
transparency for everyone. That's
No,
all.
no,
It seems
great.
like seems
No,
great.
I just-
Seems good.
Thank you.
Well,
for
I
your
mean,
question.
my read of this was, this was in response to the meeting that, one of the last meetings we had, where we had people in
Yes,
here,
yes.
talking about the
Correct.
platforms,
Exactly.
talking about the erosion, at the beach, and that just can't continue, especially if more people are gonna be using it.
Right.
So that's what we're dealing with here, is
Exactly.
to incorporate the feedback that we got. As a new person, to the commission, there's a lot of complexity in this whole site, where
Certainly is.
there's the DPW, there's the Conservation Commission, there's Wildlands Trust, there's activities that are gonna involve the cemetery, in terms of
Right.
moving into this. So there's a lot of moving pieces and parts that are gonna have to be dealt with at some way down the road. And I guess when you give this to a grantee, they become the final decision maker on things that get done, correct? This is probably 2 years down the road.
Right.
So,
Not entirely. Certain activities you have to get their permission to do, which would be structures. And
Yeah.
if the DPW's plans cause an alteration in where the entrance to the park would be, that would be, it depends on if it's done
so
prior
if
to
the cemetery is gonna move in
But
to
they can't move into this land. There's a CR boundary, and so they cannot.
So where the current gate is right now, isn't that?
That's gonna change. I've only seen
Oh,
those
okay.
plans very briefly, and I've heard that even the ones we've seen are gonna be changed. So once their plans are finalized, and it depends on what their timeline is,
Yeah.
that could be happening before this is even done, or it could happen later. If it happens later, then that activity has to be accounted for. And they know it's a camping area, so there would be a coordination with Wildlands Trust, that
So
this is
just-
what we're
yeah.
gonna do, and that should be, they're not gonna deny access if it has to move.
Yeah, so I understand our need to get this process going,
Right.
because there's a big queue at the state that we want to get into.
Yeah,
And what we're hearing is, we're always going to get another bite at the apple in terms of the final CR. through this process, if something,
If
Comes
this,
up.
if this changes, we will have to look at it again and see.
Okay.
I mean,
all right, so I'm just saying, there's more moving pieces to this whole process than
Yes.
just the camping.
right, and we're hoping that this language was done in response to not only that August 3rd meeting, but 4 meetings prior to that as well. We've been getting comments all along from
Okay.
people and feedback. So that's how we arrived at this language, learning more about what goes on at Couch, and then also the issue of the riverbank has come up. So the language, in working with Wildlands Trust,
Yeah.
is that he wanted to have as clean a copy that covers everything so that it goes to the state and comes back without alterations.
Okay.
That's the goal. That's why it's written this way. We don't want to, get them curious about what's going on. We just want to have nice,
Yeah.
clean language that can get approved, hopefully, without any issues. So.
No, I
so but
understand
these-
where we're at.
There'll be
It's-
other things, the state, their templates change, things change, and
Yeah.
they'll do their thing, which most of that doesn't really, we
Yeah.
don't really, that doesn't impact us. The CR, all of those CRs have certain standard expectations
Yeah.
with regards to structures and impervious surfaces and,
No, I-
those sorts of things. That's all pretty standard boilerplate in a CR. So those kinds of changes shouldn't be anything that's earth-shattering. This is the stuff that we want to keep an
Okay.
eye on. So, and hopefully this will all go through.
I'm not trying to be obstructionist here.
No, I know
I just,
you're not.
when I
No,
hear,
good
when I hear
question.
we want to have language that covers everything, sort of,
right.
my antenna goes up, because
Right.
how do we know what everything is,
Well, we
on things that are-
don't.
yeah,
We don't.
And so therefore, so as long as, yeah,
That's why we try, that's why you don't want to be too prescriptive.
you don't want to be,
You know,
you want to
and-
make
and
sure
you
that,
wanna
and
try
you
to
want to
count-
also protect, the rights of the town, too.
Yeah.
Right.
If the town, whether it's the cemetery or DPW or conservation, whatever, you want to make sure that we have a say,
Absolutely.
down the road. Yeah.
And the thing is, when things come up, it's very typical that you contact Wildlands Trust and in writing. I work on a property in town where I put a sign in the ground and I get permission. I just call them. If I need written permission, I get it. If
Yeah.
not, I don't. And they have the same goals that we are. They want people to use the area and they want the environment to protect it in perpetuity. So usually it works out just fine, as long as there's communication, you don't
I agree.
get into
Yep.
trouble, so.
They're targeting the prohibited uses and reserved rights section on 3 sections, and that's kind of what we're talking about.
Okay.
All right.
You want to make a motion, Greg?
I want to make a motion. I will move that we vote to approve the amendments as written to pages 6, 7, and 8 of the draft conservation restriction dated February 2021 for the property identified as off Union Street. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. That concludes our business items. I'm going to go through the continuations. These are all already open, so I do not
No legal ads.
need any legal ads. 274 Foster Ave, SE 42 2958. I move that we vote to continue to October 5th, 2022, per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 17 Oregon Road, SE 42 2990. I move that we vote to continue to September 21st, 2022, public meeting per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 66 Edmund Road, SE 42 2999. I move that we vote to continue to September 21st, 2022, public meeting per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 16 Wilson Road, SE 42 2996. I move that we vote to continue to September 21st, 2022, public meeting per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 1203 Ferry Street, SE 42 2988. I move that we vote to continue to October 19th, 2022, public meeting as per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
1184 Ferry Street, SE 42 2989. I move that we vote to continue to October 19th, 2022. Public meeting per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor? Aye. And 76 Carolyn Circle, SE 42 2950. I move that we vote to continue to September 21st, 2022. Public meeting per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now on to our hearings, the first of which is 239 Church Street, RDA 22-32. Can I confirm that taxes and administrative requirements are met?
Yes, they're all taken care of.
Okay. This is a plan for a pool, an above-the-ground pool within the 50 to 100-foot buffer to bordering vegetative wetlands. And I see Mr. and Mrs. Purpura are here. Would you like to explain your project?
Just the pool that's gonna go as close to the house as possible, which is 10 feet for a mass building code. And, that's really it.
Okay, you see the plan there. Would either Bill or Mike?
I'll take this one.
Okay.
So, I met Mr. Purpura and then Mrs. Purpura and talked about the pool, they're interested in having a pool in the backyard. And we tried to find out if there's any kind of background, and there is an old permit from, I don't know, 2008 or so on. Anyways, long story short, this particular project is separate from that. It's a pool, it appears to be outside the 50 based upon this plan. We're showing 65 here estimated. It's not surveyed in, and 25 here, so probably could be outside the 50. This would be classic for an RDA. This is an accessory to the primary house in the buffer zone only, and so it would fit. We know about this wetland line here because of SC 42-2540 for an addition somewhere over in this area, I believe. I believe it extended in here. The conditions said they need to have 3 conservation markers here and no activity back in here. They do have activity. Chair Haniff and I will talking to Mr. and Mrs. Purpura separately about that. And the pool's above ground, and they have a they have a cantilever deck that they're trying to put around the pool, and they actually want it to be able to step right on their existing deck right here. So it seems pretty straightforward as a candidate for an RDA. The other activities can be handled under a separate process.
Any commissioner comment?
Was there some building commissioner comments?
There are building commissioner comments. And I don't know if you have been into the building commissioner lately. The pool and surrounding deck, which you know must maintain a minimum 10-foot setback from other structures. He is saying that the building permit was issued in error. I don't know if you have been contacted.
That was because, if I'm not mistaken, it was actually approved, but I don't think, it didn't skip past conservation, and then I called in, right, Bill?
Yeah, I know you voluntarily came to us because the building department.
Yeah, no, that's
did not
exactly right.
direct you
Yeah.
to us, and I understand that. But these notes by Andrew Stewart today say, this property is partially located in the Inland Wetlands District. The building permit for this pool was issued in error. This was mostly due to an out-of-date site plan that did not identify the setbacks or the Inland Wetlands District.
That would be the current one, Craig, is what Chair Hannafin. So they came to me as soon as this came up. They actually voluntarily mentioned to the building department,
Right.
I need a conservation review because I'm within jurisdictional boundaries. Otherwise, they could have slipped right past it, and they did the right thing.
Oh, I know they did the right thing. That's why I'm wondering, about the comments here. This says if the location places the pool in the inland's wetland district, it will require a special permit with ZBA.
So there's another jurisdiction for wetlands, Mr. Pepper. There's another, you just don't know, there's another jurisdiction for wetlands, and that's what they're discussing right now, and that comes under the building department. He's just calling it out. This looks like it's an RDA, as we've talked about, but there's another wetland district jurisdiction that's not within conservation.
So, with respect to the RDA, are there any commissioner comments?
No, I think we're okay. I was confused. I thought they were gonna have to move it from what Andrew said, but if it is where it is, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I am too. Anyone else?
So, do I understand correctly that we have markers that we're going to be putting in, things that are in the areas that are not supposed to be?
Yes, that's correct.
They are.
What are we doing with those?
Craig and I, sorry, I keep doing that. Chair Hannafin and I will address that separately under 2540. There's a lien on the property due to the orders of conditions being recorded. Mr. Pepper knows about that. He and Mrs. have talked. They've got a plan to go address it. We're going to try and give them a little time. They can get their way through the pool. I told them we would work with them on that. This seems reasonable if it's outside the 50.
If I can just comment, the stuff that's inside of it, we rebuilt in 08, there was a fire, so we applied for a new permit, 25 no touch was added. I didn't look at that. It was never there before, never looked at it. That's why the stuff is there.
That's okay.
We have chickens.
But we've been in contact, and I didn't find out that the stuff was there until I first came to talk about the pool.
There's a beautiful chicken coop and a vegetable garden.
It is a very nice coop.
I mean, it is what it is, but I'll do what I have to do to move it. And
This is the message. The message is very positive. They've wrestled with this. This is frustrating for them too. So they'll do the right thing. And this is not heavy lifting. This is not a pool coming out of that area. You have to bring in big equipment, et cetera. This is something that Mr. Pepper can do on his own as well. So it's probably something that we can figure out. We can resolve it, close it with an order of conditions. They can cure all these other issues too with that. So that was certificate of compliance. My bad.
Any other commissioner comments? Any public comments? Hearing none, I move that we vote to issue positive determination number 5 for the bylaw and negative number 3 with special conditions.
Second. Oh, I'm sorry.
So I was going to say it's the standard special conditions, which you now
Standard.
have.
Okay.
With one insertion, which would be number 4, okay, the posts to be captured so that we get this process going. So now we have the pros on the RDA, the determination of applicability, and on the order of conditions. It'll get done. They've got a commitment. They've made that quote to us. And they were forthright with the building department when they could have not been so, and they were very good. So thank you so much for being good stewards. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. So you are good to go from our standpoint, but I would recommend
Commissioner
that you
Karen.
speak to Commissioner Stewart and see if he has any additional concerns.
Right, so we can, we'll issue you the determination of applicability. We'll go back to the building permit, which I can't remember what status it is in, and, Mike or I can sign off and get that out there, okay? So those are the next steps that we have to do, but you may have a chat with the building commissioner. You may or may not be in this other district. Just find out.
Thank you. Okay. What was that? Okay. I didn't read the legal ad.
Oh, well, what I would recommend is I would recommend that you revoke your vote, reread the legal ad.
Yep.
They just left. Yeah.
I can go get them.
No, they're right here. And vote it back in, as per prior testimony. That's all I can do for you.
Okay. Sorry, my mistake. I move that we vote to rescind, revoke the previous vote on 239 Church Street due to my failure to read the legal ad into the record. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then I move that we revote to issue a, I'll read the ad
Read the
first.
Oh, yeah, that'll be good.
Uh,
Let me
in-
get that down, sure.
In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, at 6:30 to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Mr. and Mrs. Purpur at 239 Church Street. Okay. And now I move that we vote to issue a positive determination number 5 for the bylaw and a negative number 3 with special conditions
As per the prior testimony.
as per the prior testimony. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
That was Chair Hannafin, and who on the second?
Joe.
Joe,
Joe, okay.
sorry, I'm tired. All right. Next up is 26 Island Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, September 7th, 2002, to consider the notice of intent filed by Beth Mahoney for the raise and rebuild of a single-family home. The hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
And then there's the planting
Thank you,
plans.
Craig.
That.
Mike or Bill, can you confirm DEP number and abutters?
Yep.
Taxes?
DEP, abutters, taxes, all been met.
All good? Okay. I see Brad Holmes. Are you going to present, Brad? or-
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. With me this evening is Jeff Metcalf, architect, and the applicant Beth Mahoney in the back. We filed a notice of intent for 26 Island Street. Would it be possible to pull up the existing conditions plan? And I could just go over the existing conditions quickly and then.
No, sorry, we've got some different system we didn't know. Sorry about that, I'd have to dig it up.
All right, great, thank you. And the members have a paper copy as well.
Oh, I thought it said all three.
Did we do taxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I confirmed
I did
taxes,
that.
right?
I did that.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we get into the proposed conditions, I think you have the plan as well. I did bring the boards, now that we're I would bring the boards and then I don't need them.
Yeah.
So the property here at 26 Island Street contains an existing single-family home, deck, maintained yard, shed, and it butts a salt marsh system with a bordering vegetative wetland. The site is fully within land subject to coastal storm flowage, so we're well within the commission's jurisdiction, we're well within the buffer zone as a previously developed lot. What we're looking to do is reconstruct the single-family home and bring it into FEMA compliance so that we will elevate the house above the flood zone and put a new FEMA compliant foundation with flood vents. Metcalf can describe those for you if you have questions on that. We are partially working within the 25-foot buffer zone. We are already within the 25-foot buffer zone with the house and the deck. So what we've developed is a mitigation plan.
We have it, right.
Thank you.
This part we have.
Thank you. You'll see the existing house is shown in brown, the proposed house, and there's a proposed deck off the rear of the proposed house. That's shaded in red. So you can see that we're inside the 25-foot, but we're accommodating the area to be rebuilding in the same footprint generally as the existing house and proposed larger with the deck. But we are proposing a 2-to-1 ratio of mitigation so that the total amount of area new that's going to be within the 25-foot buffer zone is 237 square feet. Some of that is deck and it's going to be elevated, on posts, but we'll still include that in the 237 square feet. And we're going to do a 2-to-1 ratio of 485 square feet or so, where we're proposing to remove the existing lawn and create a vegetated buffer where that lawn has always been maintained as a yard against the wetland system, so now we're creating a vegetated buffer. We're able to coordinate with Bill and Mike and add some more details that they asked for as far as mitigation and conservation posts. We're proposing 4 conservation posts at the edge of the mitigation area. And certainly once we're done with the reconstruction project, we'll re-landscape the areas as long as it is today. They have gravel driveway as well.
Or is this standard conditions over here?
Right, I was able to get those conditions that, including the monitoring and the step-by-step process for implementation of the mitigation work. So, in general, it's a rebuild, reconstruction within the same footprint, larger. We're in your 25-foot buffer zone, so we know that's a concern, so we're mitigating it 2 to 1, and we're bringing a house that's non-FEMA compliant into FEMA compliance. So, take any questions you have.
Who's commenting, Bill or Mike?
Mike can get this.
Yeah, I can comment on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. The house is going to be slightly larger. Notably, there was a fence on the back, and the Phragmites were right up to the fence, so having a planting plan here and an added mitigation instead of lawn would be beneficial to the site.
It's part of your mitigation plan going closer, you know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
wasn't beats out,
No,
110%.
Yeah.
No, it looks like textbook what we want, you
Yeah.
know?
It wasn't Brad knew what was going on, obviously. And you also get all of your standard conditions, so when the project ends, forest planting season, this goes.
Only question I had in that mitigation area, there's an existing fence. Is that gonna be removed when you? Or is it just,
It kind of keeps the Phragmites at bay a little bit. We could remove it if the commission wanted to, but, or leave it in place. I wasn't proposing to remove it.
actually, that makes sense, seeing how the Phragmites takes over.
Yeah, I
It-
was wondering about the Phragmites, yeah,
It does go right up to that fence
infiltrating
line.
the planting, yeah.
It's gonna penetrate the lawn anyways, you come under the fence, so without the fence, you know, it does give you, it gives that a fighting chance, at least that area.
Mhm.
And I don't think I have any further questions. So the conservation markers, they didn't show on our original plan, but they're there now?
Correct.
Yeah.
They're on the mitigation plan, I don't think they're on the survey plan up here.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing those. on
So you could get them here, but you have this, and what normally happens, Bert, on an order of conditions, is you have general information item 8 will cover this, the stamp plan, and then the secondary item will be the mitigation, which will show these markers. So your markers are in there based upon general information item 8, your secondary plan, so you're covered.
Okay. And in this location, the foundation is satisfactory, correct?
It's not Berry Beach Coastal Dunes, so they can do this, I believe. What is the building inspector, commissioner said here?
We did actually sit down with
That's right,
Andrew
spend
Stewart at
time.
the beginning and started the floodplain permit.
Okay.
We had to sit down,
All right,
we wanted to get that started, so we actually have that underway.
that's another good thing then. I have no further questions. I'll open it up to the other commissioners.
No?
I see nothing. I'd like to open it up to the public. Any comments? You're in the room or on Zoom? I hear nothing. I'd like to close the hearing, and any special how many
Yeah.
months on the growing?
It's gonna be 2 years annual monitoring and 75% successive growing, you see within 2 growing seasons. And I'd also recommend that the conservation markers are posted, the 4 of them, 30 to 40 inches out of the ground, facing obviously the house. Obviously follow all building codes and FEMA firm regulations. under D3, add an elevation certificate, because they're in the floodplain, and add the planning plans under D3. I think the conservation markers could go up under D1. That means before commencing the work, it's pretty easy. Some people come back to me and say, when we push that off, it's better to get them in there.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the markers go first, Brad, and then the house gets built, and then the plantings afterwards.
And that works, once we're started, the quicker we get the mitigation area done, the quicker we're in the process.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really gonna, the building isn't gonna affect it much, is it? No. So that,
I would anytime.
I would leave that up to the applicant.
Yeah, you could do that earlier.
I mean, earlier, they've gotta get it done.
Yeah, if I put it in D3, they can do it earlier if they want, that's an option. Sure.
Sure, I mean,
Yeah.
if everything's under, all permits are in place, we can get that done and be underway so we can get the growing season.
I'll just make it D2, we'll just change it, and then that way. In the middle, during construction.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions as discussed. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second, pretty good. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, Bill?
Got plenty of it.
Thank you. All right, 20 Dog Lane. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, to consider the notice of intent filed by UCI Realty Trust for the construction of a new single-family home. And once again, the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Okay, to confirm, I see taxes, abutters, and DEP number is checked, so we're good.
Yes. Yes, the
We're good.
DP, abutters, and tax have been confirmed.
All right. So this is a new hearing for a single-family house, and we got somebody here to present it.
Is there anybody here
Is
for?
there anybody on Zoom for 20 Dog Lane? Well, in that case, I make a motion to continue.
Yeah, I think so.
See the hearing?
Wait, that's, sorry about that, that's John Zimmer, he asked me to, sorry about that, Bert. We'll do on the next status, okay, so he had, he's in Situate Concom also, this is John Zimmer, he asked for a little more time, if you'd be willing to continue.
Yeah,
And he
can we
also has
take-
53 Concord.
We can postpone this, take 53 Concord,
He has 53 Concord also.
and then go back. That is,
So he also has
Agreeable.
53 Concord, so he can't
Does he
do
want us
Yes,
to go
both.
forward with that?
Forward,
So,
That one seems straightforward enough.
What else do we have? We have COCs at least.
we have COCs.
Okay, let me find out what his status is.
How did they do this before virtual meetings?
You just showed up,
And
or
cell phones.
you snooze, you lose, you know, it's, you
Yeah.
you show up. or-
Withdrawal.
Strap on your jetpack and,
You have, sorry, Chair Hannafin, you have this withdrawal there for 2205.
oh,
Mm.
okay. So we are going to switch the order a bit here because one of our consultants is tied up. So I'm going to go to the withdrawal of 2205 Main Street, boat ramp, SE 422977. The applicant's representative has submitted a letter requesting the withdrawal of this proposed project. This is part of, well, this is not part of, this is a separate filing from one that we heard earlier this year regarding paving. And when the paving was done, it exceeded the as-built drawing that we had. We had hoped to capture the change in that paving in SE 422977. So we now have an unpermitted paved area which is not being captured anywhere. So we can approve this withdrawal. The applicant's representative is not amenable to providing additional requested information. Would you like to say anything, Bill?
There's a fair amount of history on the property, and the resolution to the expansion of the paving under the RDA was to capture it under the notice of intent for the boat ramp, and also to remedy the fact that they were using 1990 data to have one final plan that could be used also for the as-built on several older orders and conditions that needed to be closed out with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds through a certificate of compliance. In other words, they cure everything with this current NOI, and now they're withdrawing it because they're not going to do the boat ramp work. And so then you're going to be left with additional paving unpermitted and several orders and conditions which are behind. So we thought we had a resolution in place, but that's that. Now, the comments that I got from Greg Morris were they're working on the as-built right now. So I don't know, we could maybe set a deadline for follow-up on that and close this one out. That's always more difficult, but I think at some point you have to effect the withdrawal.
Can we vote to approve the withdrawal, but note that we have, how would it be worded? We have an additional unpermitted activity here to add to the list of all of the already outstanding open orders of conditions on this property.
Yeah, you might vote to approve the withdrawal as per the written request of the applicant's representatives with the notation that outstanding unpermitted.
Notation or subject to?
Could be that, subject to.
Make it, withdrawal is accepted, subject to?
Subject,
Subject to the submittal, well, I don't know. If you subject something to,
Resolution
then
of?
you're stuck with it if he never gives you the thing, and it's just hanging out there forever. I was
subject,
trying to give you a clean way of getting the withdrawal
Resolution of
done
those?
and not tie this, not condition it, just sort of note it.
Joe has a
All
suggestion.
right, Joe?
Do we do resolution of?
Subject to
those
the
issues, but that
resolution
does tie
of
it.
the,
So let's ask a different question. If this just stands there, what are our options for resolving this collection?
Well, you could have just flat out approved it. You could approve it and put in a notation. The notation wouldn't condition the withdrawal. That separates the two, in my opinion.
But that doesn't answer my question of how do we resolve, what are our options to resolve all the other open issues?
Well, the additional paving, you noted that as a result of a complaint, right, Bill?
That was part of a complaint, but I thought this was going to be resolved here because of our good
Right, so
conversation with Greg
you
Morris.
didn't follow up on the complaint because you thought it was gonna be handled with this
I
NOI.
did follow up the complaint in a different way. They had about 4 things, and I provided them with the data they wanted. We didn't resolve this. I told them what happened. I told them that they were going to get resolved through this notice of intent. Now that won't happen.
So we could go back and resolve it through the complaint,
Well, it could be an enforcement order.
an enforcement order.
Yes, but it's a million times better to cooperate and get the same result.
I think we all agree,
Yeah.
but I think that we've continuously heard the promise of resolving these items, and they're still open, and the solution we tried to work in their favor to close these out is now dissolving.
So you wanna go ahead and close this, right?
I want them to give the as-built, finish the NOI, but they don't want to do that. We can't force them to do that.
Right, but, I'm
What-
sorry, I said close it, but you want to accept a withdrawal.
Well, I think at this stage, it's the second time. You have to accept it, or it starts to become, they seek legal, action on the commission. I think that could happen. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
What
I
if-
would I would resolve somehow the withdrawal, and,
I mean, the withdrawal would happen by your 3 strikes, they haven't, if they continue not to come back, we would kick it out anyway, right?
well, you could put with the expectation that the as-built will be submitted within 6 months, maybe something like that. Because he said in the email that they're working on an as-built. They could be working for 30 years, they could work for 30 days, they could work whatever. So, if you set an expectation on the time frame of the receipt of that as-built, that seems like a possibility. I don't know what that does to you legally. I don't know.
What if we continue this, whatever, and go to Greg Morris and say, if we can't resolve this, we're going to enforce?
Why not just withdraw it and then enforce? And that's, I think at some points, when somebody wants a withdrawal, you send a signal, and we had to chase. So we're probably pursuing a complaint or an enforcement at some point on this, because he isn't coming forward with an NOI that is going to help resolve it. There's quite a few things going on here. And we've been helpful to the public. They've asked for stuff, and we provided that. And we've been helpful to Mr. Road as well.
So, accept the withdrawal. I don't know how to
Vote to approve the withdrawal as per the written request of the applicant's representative. And,
I mean, I've got that, but,
well, the living notes are going to be here in the minutes. They're getting captured as we speak.
okay.
There's unresolved activities that have gone on, and they require an as-built to cure them and a new plan. Because we got old data that doesn't meet the commission's criteria of NAVD 88.
So if we vote to approve the withdrawal, do we just do a straight vote to
It's the cleanest.
just totally clean? Or do we say, nota bene, we have unpermitted unpermitted activity that needs to be addressed going forward?
Well, we know that we know that portions of the asphalt were added to this and need to be captured, but they were in the outer portion of the buffer zone and the riverfront. So they might have been actually de minimis if this wasn't all going on, potentially.
So perhaps just do it totally clean and accept the withdrawal.
Perhaps
and-
that's the easiest way, because I can't think of a way
Yeah.
without help from legal counsel to condition anything or to even suggest that you would go further than 2 hearings on a withdrawal request. Usually we do it within, the most convenient next hearing. And then it goes to the state, town council, to you, to, the town administrator.
Any,
I think they'll
just
the
do a
withdrawal.
straight, okay.
And then
All
pursue-
right.
then the notes will capture it, and then I'll be talking to you about the long list of complaints we have and we can pursue.
Okay.
And this has to get in there.
So I move that we vote to approve the withdrawal as per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Do we have Mr. Zimmer, or shall we?
There he is.
Oh, great. Hey, John. How are you? John is active. All right.
Okay.
All righty.
So then we are on 20 Dog Lane. I believe I read the legal ad,
Yeah,
and,
and I confirmed taxes, abutters, and DEP number.
okay.
John, I'm the hearing officer. Are you hearing us okay?
I am, thanks very much.
You got the floor.
All right, thank you again. John Zimmer with South River Environmental on behalf of UCI Realty Trust. This is for a new single-family home with an associated garage and septic system. It's within a newly created lot on Dog Lane between numbers 36 and 10. The overall lot is about 1.76 acres in area. You can see on the site plan, the lot slopes down to the west to a BBW and an intermittent stream, which I delineated back in, it's like December. Actually, no, it wasn't December. It was last year's time. But anyways, a portion of the work is located within the 100-foot buffer to the BBW. There's no work proposed within the 50-foot buffer, and the structure is located outside of the 75-foot no disturb buffer. Of the project, there's about 3,500 square feet total that's proposed within the buffer zone. And with respect to impervious area, there's a total of about 6.3% within the property, and new impervious of only about 1.7% total. So little under 1,300 square feet. Worked with the applicant to install conservation markers along the limit of 50 across the property, but in actuality, a much larger percentage of the property is going to be preserved in its natural state based on the configuration of the lot. There's really not much other buildable area within the property. So what's going to be located within the 75 to 100 is the portion of the garage, and the residence, the driveway, and the septic system are all located outside of areas subject to the Commission's jurisdiction. We will install erosion controls at the limits of work, stabilize all exposed areas as soon as the final grading is done. That's about it in a nutshell. Happy to answer any questions that the Commission may have. Right now, the property is undeveloped.
John, the correct date is March 22, 2022, down in here.
Thank you, sir.
By Pat Brennan's stamp.
Thank you, John. Bill, your comments?
Yeah, so the first plan that came in, there were severe changes or discrepancies in between a number of the contours that were here and what we saw on the town's professionally prepared as well contours. So I asked Dana Jr. to look at that. John and Patrick Brennan saw the comments along with a couple other items, and they resolved that, and it's down here on your plans, down by the signature. They had converted from the LiDAR of 2013 to 2014 to NAVD88, and they trued them up, and they looked a lot more accurate. These 90s up in here went away because they've removed earth and in the process of preparing the site. I looked at this bank, the parent bank, somewhere in here around the 7270, and took a reading out to about here. It's hard to tell because the plan scale, see how it is right here, 1 = 20. It doesn't have anything to truth a scale against. So you'd have to find an area and, you know, measure it and see if it's right. So it'd be good if we had an actual scale also on it. Anyways, so long story short, it seemed like it was about 175. Went on the field with conservation agent Mike Seelig, and we took a tape and we ran it from about 10 feet inside the road, which seemed about pretty coincident with the property line, and ran it back here, and we got about 100 and say 10 to 100, yeah, about 110. But we didn't do the a squared, b squared, c squared, and find out that it's 100. We're just estimating that. So there seems to be a discrepancy between this, and we're not exactly sure why. There is a retaining wall on the neighbor's property right about here that keeps this edge nice and clean. See that? That's actually part of their property line, I guess, too. But it's somewhere right along in here. We had photos of that, which we aren't prepared to share with you right now. And that's that. Back here, there was some greenways that would obscure the drop-offs as well around where we had measured the 100 to 110. So we had some questions about this distance. Is it actually correct or not? So that's something that needs to be cured. The area between the 20, the 50, and the 75, there is a tree line. You can follow it right here. Okay, right along, and this arrow is here, which is upgrading of the 50. So if you accepted what you have right in front of you, you could potentially take this marker here and wrap it up to the tree line on the property line, and perhaps add one here and add one there, and you'd have a much better protected area if they're willing. They can go down to the 50 with clearing. They can't go with structure any closer to the 75. The other thing would be, I would suggest that the commission prohibit any structure activity in here due to the fact that we have questions about potentially about the distance here, where the bank actually resides, and the fragility of that bank. Because you see these very tight contours, it's steep, and it's going to have any kind of breakup of the vegetation up here will have a down gradient impact on this stream down here, which, you know, it's a 50-50 toss-up whether it's perennial or intermittent, and so it's hard to make a call on it. John's saying it's intermittent. USGS agrees with them, but there's other evidence that says otherwise. So you don't really need that to delineate this thing, because the wetland flag is on this, is upgrading of the stream. If it was a perennial stream, you'd have a 200-foot riverfront out to maybe, say, here or something. And then you'd have a new property in the outer 100 to 200 riverfront in that case. But there's sufficient here to say that additional data is needed to make sure that that bank is where it's actually being shown. And then the commission has all these options to maybe condition.
So you're saying you agree with John's flags?
Yes.
But you're not sure if they're correct on this plan?
No, that's not what I'm saying. John's flags are probably correct, and I wouldn't have a big problem here, because the bank actually of the river stream really tends to be in line with the wetland delineation out here. There's a pod of pepperbush that goes up the hill. That can happen. We can't chase that. That one really was indefensible. You don't have the 4 layers. It's this bank on the top, which is not the wetland. That's not the delineator. The delineator is the bottom portion and the wetland line down here. So you can have 100 from the bank, or you can have 100 from the vegetation that's on further upgrading of the bank. And I'm not having a problem with this wetland line or what's going on. I'm having a problem with the top bank here and whether it's accurately delineated where it is, due to the fact that this was shown to be about 175 by paper, and it's roughly about, I don't know, it seemed like closer to 110, or maybe 100 feet by tape. So there's something wrong. I don't know what's going on. I told you that before there was some discrepancies in the elevations, had them review that, and they put this note down here, and they converted from LiDAR to NAVD88, and it became a lot more similar. I'm just not exactly sure about the distance of this right here. This is still a 50, but I think it might be further up here someplace. The bank. That's part of the reason I'm saying protect as much of the 75 as you can. Because because the top portion of the bank is really important to this particular area.
So just to respond to that, if I could, I'm not a professional land surveyor, but Pat Brennan is, and you know he has legal obligations when he puts his stamp and signature on a plan that it's correct. So I mean, my tendency is to, in my experience with PLS, is that they're not going to stamp stuff that's wrong because it opens them up to a tremendous amount of liability. So I would state that the commission should go on you know the experts plan, and you know that's what he does. I mean he's a PLS, so with respect to the contours and the lot layout, you know I typically defer to the PLS on that.
So just to, sorry, go ahead, John, keep going.
No, I was going to say, just to touch on the other issue with respect to moving the conservation markers up. The conservation markers are going across the 50, and the vast majority of this property is being protected, and a lot of it is located outside of that 50 that won't be able to be developed in the future. So I think you're getting you know, a significant portion of that 1.76 acres is going to remain natural, just by nature of the lot layout and, you know, kind of the inability to really do anything with it in the future.
So just to retort very quickly, so this is a revision because the plan was challenged before. There was a problem. There's a note down here. We have a revision because something was wrong. We had the stamp. I think there's two people participating in the process. That's all, you know. So anyways, it got cured, and that could happen. Nobody's actually saying that there was anything, you know, it was credential problem or anything like that. Pat Brennan is fabulous. However, there seems something askew here, and I think a closer look on that might be helpful. If Pat Brennan, you know, is okay with that and his stamp is on this, okay, but the field work we have seems
Well, I would agree with you, Bill. If it changed once, possibly it needs to be double-checked again.
Yeah,
It does have Pat Brennan's stamp, but the plan's not done by Amory. It's prepared by Dana Jr.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think we just need to double-check it. As far as the discussion, perennial versus intermittent stream, what,
Okay.
what is the criteria for that, John? Have you looked at the, I've forgotten the ways for defining the perennial streams. Isn't it the amount of upland watershed?
It's typically the first look is based off the USGS map.
Correct.
And if it's identified as intermittent on the USGS map, then it's presumed to be intermittent. There is a program you can run called Stream Stats that does look at it based on the watershed level. And that's typically used when you're looking to basically kind of go the other way, look at a perennial stream and call it intermittent. You know, we can certainly look at that as well, but you know, per the DEP definition in 1058, we're going by the USGS map, and it's clearly shown as intermittent on the USGS map.
And then to chime into that, I agree with the USGS map, and it doesn't show it as perennial. Stream sets I did look at, and it doesn't show up as a stream at all. But that means one of two things: either it's straight intermittent, or it's a 1 to 2 to 3% chance that it is a perennial stream, but just too small to show up on stream stats. There's a very small amount of error, but that's what you get there. There is also soil survey data, which we've been hearing about, and from 1969 that shows that this has got the right structure and construct to hold water 7 to 9 months, and you know, it has the potential for being a stream. There was some alteration also in this environment back in, like, say, the 50s or so, and so the stream bed kind of got changed. So that's also part of its fate right now. Then I spent time with Dana Jr., thinking about an hour and a half, looking at every permit I could find. And there were 2 that said intermittent and 1 that said riverine. So there is that. And then recently I've been given some data that riverine, I guess you would call them obligate species, riverweed, John, have been identified by somebody who's credible. So you have this back and forth, and I think that if it was riverine, your jurisdiction would just go that much further, and you'd still have the capacity to go down to the 50 with clearing and the 75 with structure. So you're trying to fine tune this and then get mitigation in that 50 to 75 to prevent any damage or retaining walls or anything like that ever happening in this environment. That's kind of what you want to keep out of the top of the bank.
Just to respond to that quickly, I mean, all the information points toward it being intermittent. Bill mentioned that it could hold water between 7 to 9 months. All it takes, I think, is 3 to 4 days of it showing it dry during a non-drought season to be determined intermittent. So I don't think there's really any substantive data. I mean, a 1 to 2 to 3% chance is, a perennial determination would be, 100%, really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's it just doesn't show it here.
I'm trying to be a centrist, that's all.
DEP would agree with that.
So I'm not disagreeing with John, but what I would say is jury's still out. There might be some fine, issues going on. I did mention the stream stats as a 1 to 2 to 3% chance. The commission goes on the higher order of percentages in general. So I'm not saying don't do whatever, but one way out of that is you could have a DO special condition that you're not making a determination on the stream and you walk from that. That's a possibility. In the case of 202 Moraine Street, it was considered to be a potential river. They gave the commission what they wanted with regards to riverine requirements, and that's how that got resolved. So sometimes proving it is something they don't want to do for other reasons, but you still can get what you want through conditioning.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to open it up to questions from the other commissioners.
Can I ask a question?
Susan.
I understand there were variances involved in order to get this. Do these plans reflect the variance? So is this what we're looking at, what is approved through the variance?
Variance with respect to
The ZBA? I thought there was variances involved with this for the setbacks. Has that been clarified, that this plan reflects that?
Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but this still needs to go, or correct me if I'm wrong, John, but this still has to go in front of ZBA and Board of Health. I don't think any of those are permitted at this point. But I think in order for them to make their determinations, we need to be able to set a wetland line and say what we're satisfied with. Because, I mean, everything is right down to, there's no give and take as far as the setbacks. They're right there, both from conservation and from building. And then if there is a discrepancy in the measurements, then this plan is out the window.
It gets a little bit more involved. So I heard from the planning department, they said that the 125-foot diameter building ring isn't on this. That determines where you can and can't build. The Board of Health director also came back and he had some questions, and Dana then answered those, and that's their world, not mine. And it seemed like he thought things needed to move, the tanks and maybe the house even. So that was a moving target that I hadn't seen a finality to. And then Andrew was saying he had some questions about buildability, but he also clarified in a separate email. Where is that?
He says the zoning board variance was withdrawn.
Right, that's because they had the wrong address. They had like 36
Oh, that was that,
Lane.
okay.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
So that's unresolved as well. Continuation, a field visit, seeing the conditions. maybe there's some special conditions that can be coordinated. John now has the messaging, if that's what the commission wants. The commission's in a listening mode right now.
I got something I'd like
Yeah,
to add.
there you
I mean, the consideration that obviously the builder or the homeowner obviously hired professionals to take these, measurements and lot lines. I mean, are we putting him in a situation that, he hired these people, they're supposed to be certified, they're specialists in their fields. So, just a concern moving forward too. It's just something I wanted to add.
So I would say, you got a good point, but just to try to read the tea leaves on it a little bit, I looked at it, I'm not a surveyor, I'm not a RPE, but I could clearly see there was a problem between the town's delineations of and they were wrong both by contour, which is the shape of them, okay, and also the numeration of them, they were off. And so they corrected that, and we know that because this revision has that, so something skewed. And so, to your point, yeah, typically, people will come in, they're a great team, et cetera. Something seems wrong. John's got the wetland nailed down. Patrick seems to have his part of it. There's something kind of moving that has been picked up by the planning board, by the Board of Health separately, and the building commissioner, and then we're wondering about the bank more than the stream.
So I'm not prepared to close this tonight. I would recommend we continue to hear from the other entities, but if we are satisfied with that wetland line, and if it's only a 1 to 2% chance that it's a perennial stream, I think these lines are good. Other
Wetland
commissioners have
delineation.
comments on that?
Sure.
The wetland lines.
Sure.
Would it be helpful to have the 50, 75, and 100-foot buffer staked out there? I mean, basically pull tape off the wetland boundary so you can see where those lie. I mean, that's gonna have to be done prior to construction anyways if it gets approved.
I think,
But just a way to kind of ensure that your buffers are, correct in the field and, depicted on the plans properly.
it would be really helpful to have the edge of the road, right, all the way to the bank, have that actually staked so that's known. Because this plan, John, is tough because there's no scale.
Right.
And so, you could take a scale all day long and you'll be struggling. So that set 175 to 100 feet might be much tighter. It might not be so bad. This might only move 5 feet. This might need 20. It might not move at all. Commission needs clear and convincing information, as all commissioners know. So that's key right there.
So when you say bank, though, what do you mean?
So the 50 there, okay, if you follow the contours, let's see if I can find the number. It appears to be the 70 right here. It kind of burns right through here. It's the last sharp line. It might be, it's knowing where that is, because this is the fragility zone right here that will have the impact on all of this down here. Within like 5 feet of this is the area that is the most vulnerable right here. So having this known really well, it might actually be more like here, which is problematic. If it's where it is, with conditioning, you might be okay. If there's no retaining walls that ever go in there. If these numbers are wrong, there's massive filling that suddenly comes out of nowhere, they might need a retaining wall like the neighbor has over here, which is a small one, but this might be larger. And so that's the worry is, they step in, they get approved, and then, oh my, I have to bring in 80 tons or something, you know what I mean, or whatever. And they need a request for amended order of conditions, or they want a de minimis, for a lot of dirt that's gonna be filled in and that. So they wanna prevent that.
Nothing further from other commissioners. At this point, I'd like to open it up. Is there anybody that'd like to? I see Mr. Finn.
Yeah, I'm gonna recuse myself from being a commission advisor.
Name and address?
Yeah, my name is William Fenn, 96 Dog Lane, I'm on the butter. And I would just ask that the commissioners go out and view this site before you make any kind of determination. I have some comments that I would like to make, but I would make them after you've taken a look at the site. And as far as the perennial versus intermittent stream, I'm not sure it's important in this instance because your jurisdiction goes up the side of that slope, even with just the 100 buffers and all. So you have jurisdiction over the important part of this project. So I would just assume, because we're in a drought, not have this referred to as either an intermittent stream or a perennial stream. It's just part of the wetland. And that way you're not committing this commission to making that determination during a drought, which is what we're in right now. So I think you can skip the discussion of perennial versus intermittent. And from what I can see, the wetlands line seems to be adequate. It seems to be at the toe of slope, I think, where it belongs. So I don't have a concern about the delineation of the wetland itself. Your jurisdiction goes up the side of the slope, which is the area of concern for me, and I would like to see the commissioners go out and take a look at this site before we continue this discussion.
Okay, it looks like where those markers are posted is at the top of the slope, but to field verify that, I think that might be worthwhile. And also at that point, John, if we could get a measurement from those markers to the street, then we'd know exactly what distance we're talking about there.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
John, it's actually wherever the bank is, okay, in case that's kind of not 70, in other words. So what they're looking for is the top of the bank.
Right, understood, and
Okay.
it may be that Pat needs to get out there and do some spot shots to verify what the grades are.
Couldn't hurt, then you'll have a second person doing the survey work, to Commissioner Dodge's point, true it up and use the consultants that you have already committed,
But we're looking at 50 feet off the wetland line, seems to be the top of that slope.
Well,
And that's what we would see if we have it staked in the field, right?
Right, yeah, if it's accurate.
if it's accurate, correct.
Bill, I hear your concerns. Will you explain what your concern is here?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's 5 or 15 feet upgrading of that. And I think if you get a measurement from the road to the actual peak or the top of the bank, that'd help you out a lot. If you want the wetlands to the 50, that's probably the right location. It's just a matter of, are those elevations underneath it correct?
Well,
That's the
he's got to
problem.
put a stake somewhere, so if he
Yeah.
puts it there, we'll see how that works.
Okay, I'll circle back with Pat Brennan and we'll figure out what the best way to do this is, but there'll be some measure of staking that's done out there, so it's, you have reference points from the wetland.
Are there any further comments from the public?
Hi, Andrew Schlosser, 35 Dog Lane, just across the street from the property.
Sir.
I agree with Mr. Finn. I think it's a very unusual lot, and I agree that the responsibility really starts above because everything's just going to flow down. I walk in the neighborhood every day. There's often water when we're in a rain pattern in there. Regardless, everything flows downhill. So the lot itself is it's not a great lot for building, and I think seeing it yourself, you'll see where there are definitely issues with it, and it's important to get the measurements correctly. And they've already cleared a lot of it in preparation for the building. And my concern is that, clearing a lot more, you're gonna lose that whole watershed buffer that exists there. So that's my concern.
Thank you. Anything further from other commissioners? Here, nothing. John, would you like to set a time for or we'll coordinate that with Bill, time for a field visit?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. If we can go out 2 weeks, and then if we can't get it done in that time, then I can just request another continuance. Would that be okay?
Yeah, September 21st, John, does that work for you guys?
Yeah, and if we can't get everything done, I'll just request a continuance to the 1st October meeting.
Duly noted.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing to September 21st. Do I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Dave, good on this one?
Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Oh,
Thank you,
I think
John.
you're up next, too, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, stuck with me.
We're not saying goodnight yet. All right, 53 Concord Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, to consider the notice of intent filed by Susan Vale to raise and rebuild a single-family home. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Karen.
Michael, can I confirm DEP
Yes.
number, taxes, butters fees?
Taxes, butters, fees have been met.
So we're all good. So John, this is yours. Would you like to present?
Yes, do you want me to pull the plan up?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Yeah, John, if you want co-host on that? But we can, yeah. All right. Did you get it, John?
Yeah, I got it. Great. You allow me to present?
Yeah. Go
Absolutely.
ahead.
Go right
I just
ahead,
sent you the P-Way. Okay.
All right, can you see it?
Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, again, for the record, John Zimmer, South River Environmental, on behalf of Susan Vale. This is one, it was kind of unfortunately a bit of a rush job. I'm working with Rockwood Design on it. And Mrs. Vale had been working with her husband to kind of move forward to basically raise the existing house at 53 Concord and then raise it up on piles with a new structure. Unfortunately, her husband passed away and he was taking the lead on all this. So they got down to the point to the building permit application, and Andrew indicated that, hey, you guys haven't gone to conservation yet. So, it was a bit of a scramble to get the NOI in, but we're here now. And what we're looking at is basically taking the existing residence, raising it, and then putting it in on a new pile foundation so that it's compliant with the building code for work within land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's also in proximity to salt marsh on the north side of Concord Street, as well as within 49 Concord Street. This is an old wetland boundary that Bob Crawford had from the work that was done on this site. There's I believe there's a residence there now. But,
Yeah.
regardless, the proposed work is to basically replace it with in approximately the same square footage. It's going to go a little bit closer to Concord Street than it is now. It'll be raised up on piles. I'm not sure if they're going to be wooden piles or helical at this point. I believe they might be wooden. And then adding in stairs and a deck on both sides. Parking will be right off of Concord Street, which it is currently. They're going to go with a crushed stone driveway so that it remains pervious. And with respect to the impervious surface within the property, it's going to decrease by about 900 square feet, because right now you have basically a solid foundation. So it's going to be open underneath. That whole area will now become pervious. So it's going to be decreasing the amount of impervious within the lot by about 87%. So overall, a net benefit to protection of the resource areas. But like we said, it is in close proximity to salt marsh and also within the sort of coastal storm flowage. So Pretty much it in a nutshell, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. There is an existing fence around the back with a shed that is shown on the plan. There's no plans to modify that at all.
Michael, do you have any comments, Michael or Bill?
Yeah, just something to note. There's 2 buffer zones applicable here. One next door with 49 Concord Street that was permitted under 17 DP number SE 42-1716, circa 2002-2006, and also from across the street. So, yes, but seems pretty straightforward.
Yes, it does.
One thing that I did forget to mention is that all the utilities will be above base flood elevation, and there'll be no living space below the base flood elevation. So just, comply with building code and the commission's bylaw.
Commissioner comments, questions? I see they do have the floodplain permit. They've been through ZBA, so that's all good too. So I don't have any comments. This is an improvement myself. Anybody from the public on Zoom in the room? Concerns? Questions? All right. Well, seeing none, I will make a motion to close and issue a standard order of conditions with some special conditions that Michael will address.
Yep. So in the D2 section, during construction of the proposed work, follow building codes and FEMA firm regulations, and post-construction under D3, an elevation certificate shall be provided to the Conservation Department.
And did you say you'll also specify no obstructions, obstructions or enclosures below? Did you mention that in the?
Yeah, we can throw that in there.
Before you do that, we just don't want any hardscape down there. Typically what we have in the standard conditions, let me read that there. That's right here. If you
Any
look
additional ground surfacing
correct,
under
if you just
D2?
read that into the record, and then that carries under that should take care of it. Because we don't want to get involved in the enclosure part of it. It's the commission.
Just the surface.
Yeah, so going off of that, standard special conditions under D2 do include any additional ground surfacing not shown on the plan noted in Section A, General Information, Item 8, whether pervious or impervious shall require Conservation Commission review.
Perfect. I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
All right.
Thanks,
so much.
John.
All right, John, have a good night.
Thank you, John.
Good night.
Okay, that concludes our hearings. Requests for certificates of compliance. SE 42-1763, 459 Highland Street. I move that we vote to table this to the September 21st, 2022 meeting and until the after-the-fact notice of intent is approved. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. SE 42-1917, 13 South Street. I move that we vote to table this to the September 21st, 2022, at the request of the applicant. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, SE 42-2460, Massey, 110 Elm Street. Okay, we have some ongoing conditions here. You want to,
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
We're just pulling up a screen for you.
okay,
So they added in the 10 conservation markers. This will join up nicely with 117 over here, Elm. And they've got, here's a picture of one of them right here. So they're just crossed. Just give you an idea. So they posted them out there, and they'll be on this permanent document here. So the concept here was to get that level of protection, so that way as the property changes hands, the cattails in the wetland don't get wiped out. And so those are 10 permanent conservation markers that are on the final approved as-built plan dated September 2, 2022. They're by Grady Consulting, signed, stamped by Kevin Grady, RPE, and they're remain posted in the field 34 inches out of above the ground surface in perpetuity on 4x4 rock resistant pressure treated cedar or equivalent posts. just leave it to remain in perpetuity.
Thank you. I move that we vote to issue a certificate of compliance with ongoing conditions as discussed. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. SE 422653, 55 Central Street. Once again, we have ongoing conditions, which again are 3 permanent conservation markers. Depicted on the final approved as-built building location plan. Do we have a date on that, Bill?
It's August 30th, sorry about that.
This year.
Yeah, it looks like it's August 30th, 2022.
August 30th, 2022. I move that we vote to issue a certificate of compliance with ongoing conditions as discussed. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
SE 422773, 1185 Ferry Street.
I'll get your Escobar.
Okay. We need,
That's the table.
I move that we vote to table this to allow more time for the conservation administrator and agent to develop a resolution. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. SE 422810A, 24 Oregon Road. So we have a shed, HVAC units, and a concrete landing that were not on the original as-built.
So right here, you can see these green areas.
There's also the generator stand there that was approved as
Yeah,
a
just
de minimis.
earlier you approved, you had revoked, this is on there as the slab that now is gonna be as per the building commission, whatever that's gonna be, like Diamond Piers or something. He's gonna probably reject this.
Right.
But we had, we were.
But we did, okay.
So you have four maneuvers here. You got the shed, you got a pad holding up some utility units back here, ACs. You got a pad right here for the generator, and then you got this landing. So it's those 4. They probably average, 90 square feet.
Yeah,
if that.
something like
It's
that, if that.
Very small.
Unless anyone objects, I would move that we vote to issue a certificate of compliance. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And SE 422959, 92 Quincy Avenue. Once again, we have ongoing conditions regarding 6 permanent conservation markers. I move that we vote to issue a certificate of compliance with ongoing conditions as discussed. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
And all these, they reference the as-built, which you've read, that are here. Take care.
Okay.
And then,
Item B9, enforcement orders, 987 Ocean Street.
yeah, is Mr. Holmesy here or Mr. Riga?
Chris is here.
Hi, Chris. Hey, how are you? Thanks for joining.
Hi.
Good for having me. Hello, everybody.
Okay.
Give us some written chair and anything.
You want to do this, Bill? Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so I've been talking a lot with Mr. Holmesy, and we've sort of become speed dial almost, we've been talking that much. We were at the 4th revision on the last meeting on the restoration plan, and I think Bert asked for confirmation with Karen Donahue, and we held a conference call with Karen Donahue. She has four plants that are on this plan here that are on her property. There are 3 right here in the buffer zone, and there's 1 down here on this property. So we shared that, and she picked the tree she wanted, sent an email. Bert's been on the email. He's the hearing officer on this, and everything's been resolved. And then Mr. Holmesy and I been coordinating with the engineer, Mr. Rigo, trying to get it finalized for the symbols on the planting table and on this plan right here, so that they're sprinkled into the right locations, because a lot of these neighbors are bummed out about the cutting that went on. And it's a pretty simple process, but it's been difficult for Mr. Holmesy and I to get this accomplished, even though we've been working in tandem. So I just wanted to let that be out there, that the homeowner or the property owner is working hard to get this done. We're at the final revision. It's just a matter of getting it in front of us, and I don't know what else to do, at this stage. He's tried, I've tried, and I just think the commission should let them know what they think and figure out a solution to this, because we have a rare injury that Mr. Rigo's going through. So we've had leg injury.
But we have a plan that is satisfactory.
Yeah, and we know which plants Karen Donahue wants. She wants 4 of the plants back, and Mr. Holmesy had any problems. I didn't have any problems. But we don't have the qualified wetland scientist, so he doesn't want to go step over, and his other consultant to go to Mr. Holmes. But if he could, and he heard from the commission, he might just be able to get a simple Brad Holmes letter, for example, and something that augmented this and sprinkled on the symbols that you want, and it's over.
Well, that's fine with me. Does anyone, I don't think anyone objects to that. I move that we vote to approve the revised restoration plan, dated,
Well, so we don't have that revised restoration plan, so I thought a conversation with Mr. Holmesy, so he would know. What I had suggested to him with what I just said to the commission was, we don't have Rev 5, we don't know when we're getting Rev 5. He's ready to plant, he's ready to do what he's gotta do. His sub-consultant could do the work, as you just saw earlier tonight. He took a plan, he created a planting plan, he put conservation markers on it, and then there was a plan that was approved. So the plan 4 could be the approved plan, augmented by Brad Holmes, because we don't know why this didn't happen. And Mr. Holmes has tried, and I've tried to help out.
okay, but I think we can vote to approve the revised restoration plan and implementation to begin during the fall 2022 planting season. Restoration plan date to be decided.
I don't know about that. I just was suggesting that we get this in front of the commission so we can close this thing out with a dissolution letter down the road and get it rolling. I thought maybe you'd communicate with them that you'd accept a, memo from Brad Holmes or equivalent, whoever's the qualified wetland scientist, putting on the symbols that were necessary and close it out. Then he could go get that, and then he comes back in September 21st and closes it out. But, it's one thing for me to tell him, it's another for the commission to tell him.
I mean, if that's a satisfactory, yeah, we can table this until September 21st, pending the arrival of revision 5.
Well, qualified wetland scientists locating the symbols.
Or modified version 4.
Right.
So you're modifying it with the memo. The plan is stamped, and it's a good plan except the symbols. That's what you're stuck with. So what I'm saying is, we can't get the engineer, and Mr. Holmesy's tried, and I've tried, to close it out, then perhaps augmenting it with the qualified wetland scientist, if Mr. Holmesy was so inclined, would be acceptable to the commission. He might do that.
He'll give us a memo with a drawing showing the location of the...
Brad Holmes or equivalent, basically,
Okay.
Give him degrees of freedom, so that he has options. He'll probably still try to get Mr. Rigo to work because he has time, but he's very close to closing this out. He also probably wanted to know there were no further objections.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there are no further objections, and so that I think that works for all of us.
What do you think, Mr. Holmesy?
Yes, I agree with everything you said, and, yeah, if you can get a, as you said, an approval of revision 5, pending an augmentation, with the markers in place for the plants, the location of the vents and the types of plants to be located, that would be very much appreciated. As Bill said, we've been trying to work with Bob, as much as possible, pending his situation, to get this resolved and done, submitted to the board as soon as possible.
He went through a horrific injury, so
Mhm.
we're trying to be sensitive, but we're trying to get things done.
Right.
Just to be clear, the commission would vote to ratify Plan 4 and with a memo from a qualified wetland scientist like Brad Holmes or somebody equivalent. The only reason I mentioned Brad is because he's already done the work and he's just as good as himself or somebody else who's a qualified wetland scientist. Does that seem like you could work with that, Mr. Holmesy, and then you've got something in place?
That was for me, yes.
Okay, well then, maybe he's back on the 21st with a memo, and then you've got this plan the 4th with the memo, and then it's
Okay.
done. We won't go for the 5th one, everything's stamped and sealed under Bob Rigo, we'll just have 4 done and a memo.
Okay, so I move that we vote to continue this to September 21st, 2022, pending the receipt of a memo from a qualified wetland scientist. Depicting the symbols, and do we need conservation markers noted on there
He's
too?
already got those on.
Okay,
Just the
so just the symbols of the plantings. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Holmesy, there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Holmesy.
Thank you.
And lastly, B10, I move that we table this as the property owner's father is working on developing a solution, but has not arrived there yet. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. And just before we adjourn, I failed to note that we hit our 3,000th hearing with 26 Island Street. So, with that, I move to close the meeting of the Marshfield Conservation Commission on September 7th, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.